Hello everyone and welcome back to Timberborn! This is episode 7 of the Road to 1000 Beavers. We are beginning the wet season of cycle 11. We just made it through a drought and thankfully the water is returning. We are also utilizing the bad water right off the bat. We have some bots in these bad water pumpers. They are starting to fill up some of these smaller water tanks, but we're also working on getting a large tank set up since we have been running out of bad water during the droughts recently. And with the return of bad water, we can also go ahead and get some explosives factories up and running once again, since we've been running pretty low on dynamite as well. But we do have a few bot jobs that are vacant. We can go ahead and switch some of these lumberjack flags back to beavers temporarily, as well as we can also get a beaver back in the forester. We have started laying some dynamite over here near our mega reservoir that we're working on. I intentionally slowed down the construction so we don't go ahead and remove all of our wood stores and dump it all into here. And as you can see, this is all lowest on the priority list. If they can construct this is awesome, but we don't want them to spend excess time working on this at the moment, since we have a fair amount of water storage, plus we have plenty of pumpers over here. And another thing we've been working on recently is getting some more floodgates placed throughout this helix, since we want to make sure there's some areas that are permanently irrigated. And so far we've added a couple. The first one right here, there's another one over here, and then we have the third one that is down in this area. And down the road we can look at elevating some of the dirt over here, since if we raise the water elevation up, it'll help the irrigation spread throughout some of these higher sections of dirt. But for now, these will serve their purpose of irrigating the land around here. We also started the construction of some houses on the side of this hill, and so we can go ahead and slowly start moving some more houses over here, and also just add some houses in general. The water is finally returning to this area, and so then once this huge reservoir in the back fills up, then it'll start spilling through and then giving us some more power. Thankfully, we have some windmills that are producing at least a little bit of power. These are not running super efficiently, only about 22%. And so during this wet season, when we have some constant power through the water wheels, we can go ahead and upgrade some of these windmills to the larger ones, like you can see over here, since they produce double the power, and then I believe they also run more often than the smaller ones. If any of you guys know any more differences between the two, please let me know in the comments down below. A lot of you guys seem very knowledgeable about the game, and so I love hearing all the interesting statistics that you guys know. And in the last episode, we also started expanding our second colony over here. You can see that we have some power production that's going on now. Looks like they do have a little bit of wood, which is excellent news. And theoretically, oh, did I forget something? Looks like we did not finish constructing this power shaft. If we go ahead and get some platforms placed right here, they will be able to construct it. Look at that, it was super close. They had all the wood down, they just did not actually finish building it. Looks like we also have an injured beaver in this district. Let's go ahead and get some amenities down for them. Specifically, let's get the medical beds. And so with this series being the Road to 1000 Beavers, we have actually made 0 checks on what our total population is. Overall, it looks like we have 182 beavers, so we are almost 1/5 of the way there. We have a couple colonies. I don't know exactly how many we'll have by the end in terms of colonies. My guess is at least 5. Since we have our original one right here, the second colony is over there, and this one was strategic since there is a scrap metal mine, and we're definitely going to need that down the road, especially with all the metal that we're going to be producing. And then way in this corner of the map, you can see our colonies in the background here. But there's another water source that we can definitely utilize once we get all the way over here. And there's some scrap metal, and then there is also a mine in this area. And then in terms of aesthetics, we can probably have another colony on top of this water spawner in the middle. We can go ahead and make a grand city, since part of this challenge is also making an aesthetic build, which I have not been focusing on that quite yet. But there are a lot of buildings that we need to get up and running before we can focus on that. My guess is once we get the dirt excavator up and running, then we'll have a little bit more freedom to start shaping the land how we like. It looks like we are starting to drop on water a little bit. We're down to 750. Let's go ahead and turn these water pumpers back on. And so we are short on gears now. We haven't had that problem until the most recent episode. We did create another gear workshop, but let's go ahead and get a 4th one set up. And we can go ahead and preemptively switch that to bots, since they are much more efficient in terms of production. Overall, we have plenty of planks, which is excellent news, so that is not the limiting factor at the moment. So let's take a quick resource check. Water is improving now that we have those 2 water pumpers back up and running. We're doing pretty good on wood, over 500, 1.8 thousand food is looking good. It's not all in carrots, but a good chunk of it is. And then bad water stores are increasing. Biofuel, we're completely maxed out on that. Explosives are still pretty low. extract is looking good, but gears, that's the one that we got to focus on at the moment. We only have 8, and we're also exporting some of those to the second district, so we do not want to make sure that they run out in either of these 2 districts. Unfortunately, our power is not looking like it's in a good spot. We've been adding some buildings recently, and so they all take power, and it doesn't seem like these water wheels are able to produce quite enough. And so we have a few options. I think the one I'm going to focus on right now is upgrading these windmills. We can also add some more windmills up here. Oh, interesting. So if you place anything down, it tells you the dimensions of that. Let's see if that applies to other buildings. Ooh, it does. Looks like they made some balance changes to the game as well. I'll go ahead and throw a screenshot of that up right now just so you guys can see it. As you can see, there's some trees that are growing up in the second district, and it looks like they're actually maxed out on wood just about. So let's go ahead and get some more storage set up for them. And we can also go ahead and check up on the power production. There is a lot of power being produced here, and there's not a huge demand at the moment. It looks like they're a little bit short on gears to get the explosives factory created. We can go ahead and get another lumber mill and then another gear workshop over here. And then we can go ahead and remove this guy, and now we don't need the power wheel as well. We have set up the bare essentials for this colony, but we need to make sure that they are starting to thrive and not just survive. So let's get a couple more water pumpers placed down. So right now in the second district, the main priority is getting these buildings up and running, since we want to start producing some explosives in this district, and then we also need some planks and gears to construct basically every building. We're going to get some little storages set up as kind of a temporary measure, but making sure that we have the bad water diversion channel up and running is also pretty important, since we don't want the bad water to spill out and start impacting some other areas. Right now we don't have anything over here, but this space can definitely be utilized in the future, since we have a decent amount of space, but I think we're going to fill it up pretty quickly. And I'm realizing that we don't actually have any lumberjacks over here. Let's get a couple placed down and then make sure that we clear some of these areas for planting, and then get some lumberjacks placed a little bit closer. And then we also want to continue getting our housing set up over here. It looks like we have a fair amount of builders who are sitting around. We are working on this over here, but like I said, we're slowing that down intentionally. But we are slowly starting to increase in the explosives we have. So let's go ahead and lower some of this area, and then we'll continue to try and make a nice little area for the water to spill into. But we won't actually open the channel until we have this blocked off. And they are quickly filling up this large tank with bad water. We're a little bit over a third of the way filled, plus all these small tanks are filled up completely. Looks like the beavers are making good progress working their way through all the trees, and we have some grown up over here as well. And so we can also continue getting some more power produced. We'll get 3 large windmills placed right here. It appears we have sufficient cattail roots and cattail flour, as well as we're doing decent on wheat flour. I think we could probably increase that just a little bit, but we should also go ahead and get some more bakery set up, specifically for the cattail crackers. It appears we are running a little bit low on scrap metal in this district. Gears are starting to increase, which is excellent news, but these guys are not able to export quite enough scrap metal. Plus they have several vacant jobs at the moment. So let's go ahead and get a few more scrap metal collectors up and running. And so unfortunately with this setup, we have a huge surface area that the water can evaporate from, which means there's a little bit of a constant flow going over into here, and that's diverting some of the water from this area. And so our power production is not quite what it could be. Thankfully we have some windmills that are supplementing it, but our gravity batteries are not able to fully recharge even after 9 days into the wet season. And so really we do need to focus on power production. We can continue setting up windmills, but as you can see, that they are not always spinning. I did bottleneck myself a little bit by placing all the crops over here, so we can't really expand our water wheels in this direction. So for now, let's continue getting some more windmills set up over here. And while the water wheels down here are a great source of power, we can also look at getting some water wheels set up top. Although getting the power connection up here is going to be a little bit of an investment up front. And it appears we are still running a little bit short on scrap metal. We'll go ahead and pause one of these smelters for now. And I think I see the problem. We only have 1 beaver in the district crossing, 6 vacant jobs. Let's go ahead and bump this up to normal priority. And then we can go ahead and pause some of these scrap metal collectors temporarily, just so we can get a few more beavers in the district crossing. And thankfully we have 10 children in this district, so soon we will not be short on beavers. But we are quickly going through the scrap metal stores over here. Let's go ahead and look at getting a mine set up. Now we need to get treated planks in order to get this up and running. We currently have 0 and we need 200. So let's turn to this first district and see if we can get one of those created. I think the priority is lowering at least a small section over here so we can expand our production into this area. Although we could also look at getting some overhangs constructed. We can go ahead and go over top these buildings. Might need to rearrange it a little bit in order to have everything fit. So let's replace a couple of these lumber mills with some gear workshops. And then we can also go ahead and get some overhangs unlocked for 1,000 science. The 4x1s are a good size, and then we can also get the wood workshop unlocked for 800. And we know we're going to need a lot of treated planks, so we'll go ahead and get a couple of those placed down. And it is 2,000 science to have bots in here, but let's go ahead and get that done right away. We have 3 bots who are needing a job, so we can have them hop in here as soon as they can. And so this is a temporary solution for the production line. We can fit a couple more buildings over here, but that'll be just about it. We could look at getting some more buildings placed on top of these, but overall we do want to start lowering this whole area. And it looks like we have 250 pine resin at the moment. Let's see if we can go ahead and switch something else so that we can get some more pine resin. This gear warehouse is completely empty, so we can go ahead and switch that. And so we are running out of planks. Let's go ahead and place some bots in these lumber mills just to make sure we get some more planks up and running. But we will need to be careful with our wood stores. We have just under 450, and now with 4 lumber mills running around the clock, we got to make sure we have enough wood being produced. We can go ahead and pause some of these lumberjack flags since the beavers are doing nothing. Looks like they chopped down pretty much all the trees. These last couple are going to be chopped down soon. And so we can get a few more placed over in this area. And so in preparation for the potential wood shortage, we'll get some more lumberjack flags and some more foresters placed over in this area. We have a couple more set up at the moment, and then we'll go ahead and get some pine trees placed down. And so we have some berries over here. The only thing that we need berries for that I'm aware of is the herbalist, which makes the antidote. So it looks like we need a couple dandelions, berries, and a paper in order to make 2 of those antidotes. So we won't quite get rid of all of them just yet. And so we can repurpose some log storage into some treated plank storage, since we do have both these wood workshops up and running at the moment. Unfortunately, we're just running a little bit low on planks. Our wood stores are starting to drop. We're just under 300 now, but we are doing all that we can in order to get all the wood produced. We have some more trees over here that we can go ahead and chop down. And so we have a few lumberjack flags that are chopping down the few trees that they can. Looks like some of these oak seedlings are growing up, and when those grow up, that'll be a welcome change. They actually have a fair amount of wood overall, 340 in total. It seems like the second district is actually doing a little bit better than the first one. They have finished all their projects. They even have a couple unemployed beavers, so we can always go ahead and throw them in here. And the drought has officially started, 7 days long. I think we're going to be running a little bit short on power during this time. Although we do have a fair amount of windmills that are up and running. The gravity batteries are nearly maxed out, but we've been adding in some more buildings. Plus we have some more bots in there, which overall drains a little bit more power. One thing we can have the beavers do in the second district is start lowering some of this hill over here. I think we're going to try and make it so that we have it flat, or at least level with the mine. And look at that, we can't actually place the dynamite underneath these zip lines. Looks like it is just a little bit too close, so we'll have to go ahead and temporarily disconnect these once they get up here. And we have some bots who are sitting around. The bad water is no longer flowing since it's the drought. Plus we have an unemployed bot overall. Let's go ahead and switch this builder's hut to bots, and then pause all these guys. And I am seeing a new building. This is one I haven't seen before. It's the tunnel. This is new to me. I'm not exactly sure how this works, to be honest. Maybe in the One Pod Challenge series I can go ahead and take a look at that, since we're pretty established in that series. But right now we need to use all the science that we can, so we can't quite afford to get this, since we have some other things we want to focus on. And one of those things is getting a couple more explosives factories up and running, since we are still short on explosives in this district, and we have quite a few things that require explosives. We can preemptively switch both of these buildings to bots, and we are just about out of power in terms of the gravity batteries. We do have the windmills up and running, but I think it is high in time that we go ahead and replace some of these smaller ones with the larger ones. Since we have sufficient paper and wood is looking good, we're still a little bit short on planks at the moment, but if we go ahead and high prioritize them and then reuse some of the materials from these, hopefully it shouldn't be too big of an issue. And so we have made it through most of the drought. We have 0.6 days remaining, but as you can see, the scrap metal stores are starting to dwindle a little bit. We have almost 4,000 science, which means that we can very quickly unlock the mine and then place it on top of this area. And the beavers are working on placing some dynamite up here. We don't really have a whole lot overall. In this district, they're using every ounce that they can to get this constructed, even with all 4 of these explosives factories up and running. We are once again running into a power issue. but I have started the process of getting some power shafts over here, and then we're going to go vertically, probably remove at least a couple of these buildings, and then we're going to go ahead and tie it in over here. We do have a fair amount of wood, so we can look at getting some water wheels placed up here right now, especially considering we have some bots who are sitting around. So let's go ahead and start getting a few of those placed down. And down the road I may want to raise this whole area up one level, especially if I want to get some levees or dirt blocks placed over here and along this area in order to raise up the water levels. And if needed, we can go ahead and upgrade the power infrastructure then. Although now that I'm thinking about it, as long as I get some levees placed along here and then placed right here, then that would actually be enough to stop the water from flowing over here. And we don't even really need this yet. We're trying to build this so that we can eventually connect it in. So I'm going to go ahead and backtrack just a little bit. And so let's go ahead and focus on these levees over here first. Unfortunately, we do need 6 levees in order to place a water wheel on top. I would love to use dirt blocks, but we don't have that unlocked and it's not a super high priority at the moment. First, we want to go ahead and get the mine unlocked, which we just have enough science to do right now, which we can go ahead and place down right here. And so it will be a fair amount of resources for them to get that constructed, but we do need to go ahead and focus on that since we are starting to run out of scrap metal over here. And if we run out of metal, then we are not in a good spot. And look at that, we have a lot of wood over here that is ready to be chopped down. Let's go ahead and get another forester set up, make sure we super high prioritize it. And soon this district could actually be exporting wood into the first district, the district of Bavaria. But the drought is fully over, and so the water is slowly returning. And with the wet season beginning and the water flowing once again, I did lower all these floodgates so that we can get some water pouring back into this area. And now I'm not 100% certain on this, but I think that I want to have this set to close above contamination of 5%. And then we'll get some new sluices set up over here. But we'll have this one set to close below contamination of 2. Which really I'm trying to make sure that we don't have both of these sluices closed at once and then have this whole area get flooded. So I think with this setup we'll be a little bit conservative in the sense that we will make sure that bad water flows out this way and that water is flowing this way. Which there are some upsides and downsides to both. If we have water going around the helix, then we'll have a lot more places that are irrigated, but it will take a little bit longer for the water to get all the way back down into our district, which will also mean that power will be running a little bit slow. And so I can always go ahead and manually open and close this, but the point of the sluices is so that it is automated. So I'll need to figure out what the best solution is. Maybe you guys can chime in on that, which it might be a slightly complicated system. I'm not sure how you guys would set it up, but really I want the option to either have water go through here or bad water go through here, and then also make sure we can at least fill up some of this area for irrigation. And really we want to make sure that all these ones are set to close above contamination of a certain percentage. Although maybe we have this bottom one set to both close above contamination and close above downstream depth, which we can always raise this as soon as we finish constructing the levees over here. Although now I'm thinking about it, we don't actually need to have all 6 of these with levees. We just need to have at least 2 of them set to levees, and then we can have platforms placed for these other 4, as well as make sure we have some levees set on the sides. And we do need to make sure that we go ahead and turn these bad water pumpers on, since it looks like we are actually completely out of bad water now. And so we have been making some good progress lowering all the blocks over here. We're on the final section for here. We can go ahead and get some triple dynamite placed down and then some individual double and single pieces. And now that the power is back in full swing, we can go ahead and turn some of these buildings back on. And as you can see, they are starting to make some good progress on the mine. We have put a fair amount of treated planks into this, which I was guessing that was going to be the limiting factor. Looks like we still have a fair amount of gears, although most of those are in the first district and not the second one. But one thing we will need to do is make sure we have enough workers who can hop in here. Right now we can go ahead and have all the scrap metal collectors continue and finish all this off. And then once that's done, we can slowly start pouring them into here, assuming that this building is constructed in time. And that is where we're going to wrap up today's episode. If you enjoyed today's episode, go ahead and hit that like button. I really do appreciate it. And with that, we will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.